He likes the other speakers. He respects them, but he's an introverted type of guy.
Right.
He wants to be in his green room alone, banging out push-ups, getting to his psych prep. And if I need to jump in and out, that's fine. But I always got to keep security there because I've seen it happen.
Welcome, everybody, to the Not For Nothing podcast, hosted by the dynamic duo Christopher Michael and Ashley Maland, where they delve into life, love, relationships, and personal growth. Be sure to tune in every week for a refreshing take on life's most important lessons. Welcome, Darren. Appreciate you coming on today, man.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're pumped. But I just want to say, honestly, I've been watching a lot of your stuff, and I'm actually a recovering opiate addict myself. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you and what you do, truly. It's great that you use the platform that you have to help people in recovery and addicts. It's not easy. There's a level of shame that comes along with it, and I think you do. You inspire a lot of people. So from someone in recovery, I genuinely appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
So my first question for you, though, is what inspired you to use your platform to help others, though? Like, what made you want to do this?
I think it's probably around my third year of recovery. I was with Dennis Rahman in Tokyo. My VP, Steve Simon, had some basketball exhibition type of event for him to be a part of. And my favorite things, I was going to road meetings. They said in New Jersey back in the 12-step rooms that, I was like the road dog. I would travel over the world, and the most incredible feeling was walking into a 12-step meeting with recovered addicts and alcoholics and not know anybody, but know everybody, and not be home, but feel right at home. And I think you understand what that means.
I do. Yeah.
And so I became fully addicted and immersed with having a bigger legacy of going to more road meetings than anybody since the history of the fellowship on June 10th, 1935, from Fiji, Monaco, Nice, France, London, England, Maui, Honolulu. I mean, the list goes on, Anguilla, Nassau, Bahamas, Paris. I went to an English-speaking meeting. So this one day was one of the worst meetings I went to, where a woman brought up the topic in downtown Tokyo. It was the one day off I had. I was so excited to get to a 12-step meeting. And she talked about her anonymity being broken on Facebook, and that it really upset her, that she wanted to keep it private. But she did say how many people were messaging her, but she just wasn't ready to talk about her story that needed help. And the light bulb just went on in my head. I go, holy crap. I'm like, I know my mom's not going to be happy. My dad was alive at the time. Like, my dad's so super proud. My mom being a suburbia house mom, Jewish family, and upper middle class, Livingston, New Jersey. So I just did it. And it was like my 3rd-year sober birthday a couple weeks later when I got back. And the response was absolutely incredible. And all the different people messaging me. And I was, upheld the traditions. I didn't mention AA or NA. I was always a 12-step fellowship.
Right.
And it just became such a blessing. And I started realizing it actually became even a bigger insurance policy for myself, because I would get so many randoms throughout the week, throughout the month, connecting with somebody I haven't spoken to in 3 months. And if I'm having an off day and I'm off that spiritual beam, somebody would just out of nowhere call me, text me like, hey, man, congrats on your sobriety and everything. Brings me right back to what's important in life.
Amazing.
Right.
So for me personally, not for people listening that could be in recovery, for me personally, it worked. And I just stuck with it. I mean, my mom, at the time when I wrote Aiming High in 2018, about a year after my dad passed, she was a little bothered knowing that Chris Cuomo, Primetime, was my first interview. Chris is my boy.
Okay.
And we did an hour-and-a-half pre-interview alone, him and I, a week before, because his family has been impacted. I mean, whose family hasn't?
Right.
Yeah.
And he just said, he goes, brother, let me launch this for you. So this can go global right off the bat. I don't care who else you do, but come on, Cuomo Primetime doesn't get much bigger.
No, it does not.
So she was nervous, and she's just like, oh my gosh, I just, the whole world's going to know. And she goes, how do your clients feel? I'm like, Mom, Magic Johnson wrote the forward to my book. Jeannie Buss and Mark Cuban gave testimonials with Hook and Rick. What do you mean, how do they feel? I'm like, this isn't about you.
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't about your circle of friends. So I guarantee all have addicts, alcoholics, and mental health issues within their families that you've never heard about.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's the vulnerability, the transparency, the openness, and the honesty that's going to create my legacy more than they've ever done. And when Cuomo, they aired it twice that night, and it was the first thing the next morning in 2018. I'll never forget it. She calls me up that she had a friend down in Florida, and she goes, "Do you know that he was a big partner in a law firm, and there's been a lot of issues going on lately?" And she called me and said he just got out of his third rehab, and he's not doing well. Would you speak to him?
Oh, wow.
And got him on track. And now it's the greatest thing I've ever done in my mother's eyes.
Oh my gosh.
He's still sober to this day, I would imagine. That's awesome. It's amazing that you were able to impact him in a way where, because it's tough.
You can see that one gets me every time I talk about it.
Oh my
It
gosh.
just, for a mother to experience that. And then Rosanna Scotto, who's a dear friend, her son LJ is one of my agents, and she's as big as they get. She's New York royalty with Good Day New York. And she came to me. She was my second interview in the green room. Tears running down her face. Mascara. She had to redo her makeup, and said, as a mother, she goes, my heart ached going through this journey because I have family members as well, and a child suffering. And she goes, but what a win at the end.
Yeah.
She goes, please give your mother a huge hug for me.
Right.
And so when I told my mom that was another one. She's like, it's like, yeah, you got to get over it, Mom. You're the reason, just like 99% of the people in America and around the world, why we're losing lives every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the strength is asking for help. The strength is putting it out there.
Yeah.
I was blessed to be at Dr. Bob's house on my 9-year sober birthday in Akron, Ohio, on July 2nd, 2000. And what year was that? 17, and there my dad passed. And just so you know, Dr. Bob's is where the spiritual fellowship started, June 10th, 1935. And 12 steps, by the way, when you walk up the house.
Oh, really?
That's where
you're
the
kidding.
12 steps came from. And one of the tour guys told me that Bill Wilson struggled in the late 60s with the anonymous part because he was getting such recognition for what he's done, creating this spiritual bridge back to life fellowship that got adapted at that point by dozens of other countries.
Right.
And he felt that when they originated on June 10th, 1935, that the anonymous part was more relatable then because you were damaged goods. You were a lost cause. You were unhireable. You were in an institution for the rest of your life. They had no idea how to deal with alcoholism and addiction.
Right.
But as decades went on, he started realizing, look, even if our percentage goes up a little bit higher because we can tell people what this fellowship is, why not?
Right.
And I'll tell you one more quick story. When I did Jay Shetty's podcast, and Jay's a dear friend, I called my sponsor up the night before, and I said, I've always respected their traditions, but Jay's got one of the biggest audiences on the planet. And I said, I want to, for my own mission, I want to tell people what this 12-step fellowship is so they know and they can Google it. And during my breakdown moment on Jay, I shared that it was AA and NA, and hundreds and hundreds of DMs. If I ever pulled them up, I mean, we're talking, it goes back 2 years of people saying, God bless you. I went to my first AA meeting in Sydney, Australia. God bless you. I got my son to go to, NA meetings in London, England. He's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'll be honest. I mean, for me at least, I don't know. I would imagine for everyone, I think there's a lot of shame attached to being an addict, especially like you said, with family. And, you are like, for me, it was heartbreaking to have to tell my mother.
Yeah.
And I think, aside from the personal things where, you don't want to be sick and everything else that comes along with it, you don't want to break anybody's heart. You don't want your family to feel shamed, and you're worried that you're not going to get the support that you need. And it perpetuates you keeping it a secret.
Yep.
And the biggest thing I think you can do to help your recovery is be open and honest about it.
Yep.
Because it helps you when people know it does. And as you've seen, you get a lot of support. And I think for me, especially, like the support, it helps keep me sober. Because when I'm in a situation that I maybe shouldn't be in,
Yep.
or I'm in a place where my friends see me kind of like, they're always there, right? To
Yep.
make sure that I don't take a wrong step. My family's
Yep.
always there to make sure I don't take a wrong step. So when I came clean about it, it was the biggest help to me in the world.
Wow.
I mean, truly it was as heartbreaking it was to tell everybody. It kept me on track over the years. And
So you understand that.
I do.
Because they want to keep
does.
you accountable too.
They
Yeah.
do.
And you can't get offended by it.
No, not at all.
My mom comes to my place in Brentwood once a year. The girls will tell you because you're going to meet Carla and Matilda. She goes through my medicine cabinet. It's almost 16 years
Wow.
sober.
Yeah.
And I just sit here and say, let her.
What an angel,
A
though.
mother will never get over that.
No, they won't.
Never.
they won't.
And I caused that. It's accountability by me.
Yeah.
If I get offended, I got to check my own recovery.
Yeah.
'Cause that's my mom
Yeah.
that saw me with multiple overdoses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanting to kill myself. She has every right to do that.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
what a blessing that I could be like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
Seriously, though. But you are accountable to her
Yep.
because you're her son and she
Yep.
loves you. And everything that you do affects her life, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. So 16 years or 16 months or whatever it might be. I mean, yeah, let her look. Let
Yeah.
her look.
Yeah,
It's
for
a
sure.
trauma that she'll never get over.
That's
you know?
right.
And there's
That's
nothing
right.
like a mother's love, with their sons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You
They
know-
say daddy's little girl, mama's boy, that's how it goes. But what I'm curious about with you is I work in not like you, but I'm under a lot of pressure day to day for work.
Yeah.
And you're in a very high pressure job, I would imagine. I can see it kind of through your travel and everything and who you work with. How do you balance the two? How do you balance being in such high pressure situations, which are typically triggers for a lot of people, and maintaining your sobriety? Because it's tough. It's a hard balancing act to keep.
I mean, I think it took a little bit, being an agent to some of the most iconic athletes and celebrities, for as many years as I have, but at one point I always say that what was once living to use opiates turned out into using to live opiates. And without them, I just, felt like I couldn't survive. And the reality is sort of once I hit my bottom on July 2nd, 2008 and dove headfirst into the fellowship and doing the soul work and the deep dive into clearing out whatever bad choices, resentment, behavioral patterns, which are always still a work in progress. I think it took about 6 months, and eventually I think I was with Magic Johnson somewhere, and it kind of just felt like, wow, I can do this. And then I had something with Larry Bird and Hulk Hogan, and it's like, wow, the same things that used to get me like, oh, what's going to go wrong or I'm not that guy. And staying in prayer, being a service work to other people, my physical, mental, emotional health in the best shape of my life. I work out 6 days a week. I go to anti-aging centers all over between Malibu and Santa Monica. Gary Breck is a good friend of mine. I'm on his 10X program. I told you I do everything I can to counteract the physical as well as the emotional and the spiritual state. So I could deal with a day like tomorrow where I got to meet David Goggins at the Gaylord Palms Convention Center in Orlando for his keynote, and then I got to leave a little bit early because I got to get back to LA for Magic Johnson on Saturday night speaking at the LA Convention Center. And then Sunday, I've got a father and his son flying in who were the winning bidders for this amazing NBA basketball experience to go to a Clipper game with Jerry West, who's a dear friend and an executive for the Clippers. And all that money was over $25,000 went to my Aiming High Foundation and scholarship people already. That's my next 36 hours starting tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
It's quite the schedule, but it's all for a good cause, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
I guess that's the only thing that keeps you going.
It's just to touch on the point you say, isn't it crazy how though I remember like exactly what you're talking, isn't it crazy how you feel like when you are using, you feel like everything's going to fall apart if you stop.
Yeah.
And it does. And especially if you have a degree of success, you're in panic mode over it because you just don't know. And you really feel like, and you probably are to a degree, you feel like you're functioning at a very high level.
Mm-hmm. Highly functioning.
You do. You feel like you're highly functioning. So the fear of just even that is enough to trap you sometimes.
Oh,
I mean, it really is. It's wild. The impact
fear and
it has on
shame
you.
will keep you bound to things that you could easily be free from.
Yeah.
You know?
But then once you clear out the drugs and put the plug in the jug and get rid of the chemicals, You put one foot in front of the other. And, I always call them the 5 A's: attitude, adjustment, accountability, action, and acceptance. And you put that into your heart and soul, into your spiritual core. And little by little, it just happens.
Yeah.
Laundry came to our healer. Laundry, he came to the Lakers game at the end of October. My girl Nutza for American Idol. We got her singing the opening night of the Lakers' first home game, the national anthem. She just crushed it. And he's like, bro, I've never seen you in that environment before. He goes, you literally have so many different senses. I'm picking up where security needs to be in this one and that one. And he goes, it's unbelievable. He goes, you just turn into this agent mode and you're a different Darren than when we do our sessions. And like, I've been doing it for 30 years. I was like, the best part for me, Launch, is that I could do it now without putting anything in my system.
Yeah.
I know how to turn it on and off when I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a reflex.
Because it's not just, people don't realize, working, with the talent that we do, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff
I
that
can't
has to go
imagine.
into it.
Oh,
There's
sure.
there's the loading dock drop off. There's the private police escort sometimes. When Hulk landed in Chicago last week on a private jet, and they had to, take him to a certain part of the jet station and make sure there's a golf cart there because it's hard enough for him to walk with all the surgeries, and had to get him into the convention center through the side entrance, and then having the police escorts there at a certain time, knowing that he's leaving, to make sure he doesn't hit the jet. I mean, there's a lot
And you're
of
doing that with
details
multiple
go in.
people.
Yes, so you're not. So it's not purely about whatever that opportunity is. It's our job to make sure, like when Goggins pulls up tomorrow, he's expecting me to be at a certain point in the back loading dock. Him and I give each other a hug. I do the walkthrough 30 minutes before. I've got security's phone number. One in front, one in back. I need one to stand guard in front of his green room because I know him. He likes the other speakers. He respects them, but he's an introverted type of guy.
Right.
He wants to be in his green room alone, banging out push-ups, getting to his psych prep. And if I need to jump in and out, that's fine. But I always got to keep security there because I've seen it happen. A promoter, and look, God bless them. They're paying to put the events together, but certain celebrities don't want to meet an hour before.
Yeah.
They want to get their prep. They want to meet 5 minutes
Well,
before.
it's their process, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to understand, a guy like him, Magic is great. Magic will get there always super early, just like all of them. But his routine is he wants to do the quick pound to low, couple photos real quick, and including me, he clears everybody out of the green room and gets into his place of prayer and what he needs to do to get ready to go out there. So,
I just want to say, like, for you to think about, and I'm sure you have, but what an accomplishment to go from doing all of that and only being able to do that when functioning on
opium.
Yes, but being able to go from that to doing it all without anything but just your drive.
That's incredible.
Like, those are two completely different
Different
people. And the power and the strength that you've had to gain to go from here to here, and including the rock bottom that you had to hit first, but to build your way back up to the exact same amount of efficiency without needing anything but your drive and your passion. Like, that is incredible.
And anticipating things, because I've been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
So it's like I have a backup plan to a backup plan. Yeah. So it's so smooth if something's a little bit off, even tomorrow, because my initial flight lands at 4:30. His arrival's at 5:45. I have a backup flight booked.
Wow.
I have another flight backed up in Dallas in case the connection on American is delayed. So I go right to the Southwest terminal and I still get in at 4:50.
Wow.
These are things you just learn when you've been doing it as long as I have, because I'm like, look, I could be great going to Dallas, but then there's a delay from American getting to LA. So I'm going to make sure, worst case, there's a backup. I'll get on the tram, whatever it is, go to Southwest. And people don't think about this stuff.
I mean, it's like superhuman.
There's literally an art to every bit of it. And we've also learned from trial and error, from making mistakes and knowing the way each client likes it.
Yeah,
and,
true.
You also have to make sure it's a win for the brand and the companies that are hiring the celebrities, because they want to get their time too.
Yeah.
And, you have to find that balance, and occasionally I'll have to go back, whether, Charlie Sheen or Dominic Wilkins. I mean, they're all amazing. Carmen Electra. I mean, I love everybody that we work with, but, they might sometimes say, well, why don't we do it this way? Or, let's just, and then we have to go back, because there's no intimidation. We're family, we're friends. And I got to call back Ric Flair or whoever it might be, like, bro, listen, it's got to be this way. They're scheduled. They've got 8 other guests coming that day, and they only have this time slot, and they'll typically, all right, let's just do it then.
Yeah, that
Charlie
makes sense.
Sheen's got to be fun.
He's been sober now, by the way, for almost 7 years.
Yeah,
Is he?
I realize.
Doing
Yeah,
amazing.
That is amazing.
He was he's a wild guy, huh? He was a wild guy.
I never got him when he was in his wild period. And thank God I was sober, because I think we started maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But he's always been a sweetheart, man, and he's a great dad. And he's on the comeback now. Him and Chuck Lorre made amends, and Charlie's on some TV show now with Sebastian Maniscalco that's directed by Chuck Lorre.
Oh, I gotta check it out.
Out of all people, it's on.
I think
it's HBO Max. It's called Bookie.
I gotta check it out. I love both of those guys. So I the two of them on a show together is like,
I know.
I could sit down and watch it all day, I'm sure.
I know, but he's such a good dude, man. I mean, it's very, very special relationship. I mean, think of any one of my clients, these girls in my office, they hear it all the time. There's not a single phone call that ever ends with my clients and I both not saying I love you.
Oh,
that's what I think I'm most proud of.
It's great that you have that camaraderie. Yeah. You know, it's good to have relationships like that with people that you work with.
And 90% of the conversations are about life.
Yeah.
You know, making them money is easy.
You're right.
I think I never needed to be that guy that, you know, wants to have a multi-billion-dollar agency. It's never been. I just wanted to have a great livelihood so I can take care of as many people as possible and, you know, make my clients happy, do whatever I can for my family. But my dad always taught me the value of relationship building at a young age, and I've stuck with it ever since.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is they're celebrities. They could have any agent they want. Like that's not the important thing. The important thing is someone that you trust fully, that you actually know cares about you as a person and not just the opportunities that they can bring, right?
Yep, 100%.
Because there's
and I'll tell them, believe me, there's times we've butted heads, but I just, you know, if I feel that they're short-sighted on a decision, if I feel their attorneys at a certain point could be a deal killer after we've negotiated a project, I'll say it. I don't really give a shit because the reality is, you know, I've always said, like, lawyers are amazing, but the agents are the ones that have to go and find, create, negotiate the opportunity. Don't ever let it
in your best interest.
Let a lawyer protect you, but don't ever let them kill a deal because lawyers are replaceable.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of phenomenal entertainment lawyers, and they sometimes mark stuff up so much. Right. That, you know, push your way right out of a deal. Guess what? Now that celebrity's got a $20,000-$30,000 bill, and the whole opportunity went away.
Well, if they don't have you looking out for them, who's going to do it? I mean, I would imagine these guys need people. I would imagine they're surrounded by yes men a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So they have to have somebody looking out for their best interests.
Yeah.
You know, and I would think that they'd want someone representing them who does that. You know, who's going to be honest with them and tell them when they're making a mistake or, like you said, they're being short-sighted about an opportunity. And it's great that you do that for them. But I agree with you. Yeah, lawyers they're like deal killers sometimes. Yeah, it's crazy.
In any business.
Yeah, in any business. Absolutely.
Yep.
100%.
So where do you go when you're like, okay, enough is enough and I have to rejuvenate. I have to refuel because I don't even know how you do it all, but there has to be a place or a time where you finally are like, okay, I'm clocking out and I have to get back into me right now to come back alive as a human.
Yep.
Like, what does that look like for you?
So if I can, I'll take like a little vacation. But, you know, when I'm not able to travel, it's usually time with my dog, Rodney, which is the best. My 11 and a half years Sharpei. Or if I'm dating somebody, I love having downtime. It's like a special woman in my life to Netflix nights and chills. It's hard though because like I'm always out and about. So like I get it. A woman wants to go out, go to dinner, certain things. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I could just freaking stay in tonight and order food. So, but you know, I get it. So, you know, I understand when I have to do it, but I do a lot of self-care, a lot. I told you when you come to LA, my boy Brian and several other people have these frequency machines that kind of are phenomenal for anti-aging, underlining root issues that the doctors can't pick up in their traditional blood work and CAT scans. And I do a hyperbaric chamber that I go into that brings you like 8,000 feet in the air. And it, you know, kind of rejuvenates certain red blood cells and the dopamine levels and the serotonin in the brain.
Wow. What?
Very cool.
So, you know, and I'm like clockwork with this stuff. My girls know when there's a day I'm doing my frequency work. And now a couple months ago, I bought an ice bath. So I've been doing 3 minutes in the ice bath first thing in the morning. Took me a few days to get used to it. Now my body craves it. Your
I've
body
heard that
actually
before.
does crave it. You get in, and it's not the shock of getting in. The part that gets uncomfortable is getting out. It feels like you're getting out of a cold swimming pool.
Oh,
You actually get in there.
Right.
Once you're used to it,
yeah.
you'll drop like sitting Indian style, and actually like it feels good. Like it's not chills anymore. It almost feels like the waters around you is warm because it does so much for inflammation
Wow.
to the body. The body starts craving it. And then I told you hydrogen water, which I've been big on lately. And I think that you have to put that first and foremost before anything, mental and spiritual, physical and emotional healing. And then of course, Landre and I, my boy, we do at least one deep dive meditation a week to clear up bad energies and blockages and any new traumas that might have popped up in my life that were, festering or lingering and behavioral patterns because, I'm still messed up at times, even though I got almost 16 years sober. My thought process, but it doesn't matter. You can give me a cheat meal. That cheat meal can turn into 2 days of bad food and then I pay the price. Or, if I'm single, it's not understanding, okay, try to, focus on one woman, focus on 5 and figure out which one works, or hyper focus on one and fall off that spiritual beam completely.
Right.
So I'm trying to find that balance to always make sure that recovery, my mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional health come first and being a service to other people. And then as I work on all those other character defects with my meditation, the step work being a service to other people, I think everything else sort of, comes into alignment.
Right. Well, it's hard sometimes. I mean, we have addictive personalities, right? So you sometimes you replace that addiction with other things.
Exactly.
So, and it's very hard not to do that. It really is. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's always bad. Like for me, it's work, right? Yeah. So I found a lot of solace in work. Yep. And sometimes it's, sometimes it works against me because I'm sure you can relate. Yeah. You overwork yourself.
Yep.
Not at all. Not Darren. Not Darren.
Well, it's
never.
I just
can hear my voice.
I know, right?
You can hardly speak, but he does not do that.
This is going to be one of those podcasts. People are like, "Oh, it's a great interview. What's up with your voice?"
Well, I was exhausted, and
but you got to find good places to put it. I mean, I think the reality is, I don't know how you feel about it. I just feel like, you're never going to truly get rid of it, right? So you need to make sure that you put it in the right places, right?
Yep.
Make sure you
healthy vices.
Right, you do. You need to have healthy vices, 100%. Otherwise, you could very easily fall off the wagon. So for me, in the very beginning, that was a tough struggle. I know it was for you. It's kind of finding that balance, making sure I put myself into productive things. And it was like people, places, and things. Like always for me, that was the biggest thing for me. I actually moved to Florida. I got away from a lot of unhealthy situations.
Great
that I was
recovery community.
Oh, yeah. No, it is. I mean, it changed my life. It really did. So, yeah, I still find myself always I always watch out for it. I feel like it's always there and you have to be cautious. And like you said, maintaining your mental and physical health has a lot to do with kind of keeping you on track with everything.
Yep.
But that's great. I mean, well, let me ask you, so what do you feel like, what would you like to see change in society? Because obviously there's a lot of stigma that comes along with being an addict. So how would you like to see society change for the better for people who are addicts, recovering addicts? What do you think needs to change for people to be more open and forward about it?
I think if society was clearly less judgmental, I think a lot of the shame is self-inflicted shame and the embarrassment. I think that's us overthinking and not realizing that the strength is actually asking for help. The strength is being open and honest about it. And now vulnerability and honesty has become a superpower in my life. And it's bizarre to me that more people aren't doing it. That even like you said earlier before, like, I appreciate what you're doing using your platform. Like, who wouldn't? Like,
exactly.
I made a deal with God when I fell on my knees on July 2nd, 2008, screaming, shaking, with tears rolling down my face. And I said, take the money, take the business, take the notoriety. If you take me out of hell, I promise I will spend one day at a time taking others out with me. And I've kept my word since July 2nd, 2008. I feel it's a disservice when you're given a gift of sobriety and recovery and mental health, progress and healing in any one of those areas. I feel you owe a debt to society
Yeah.
Yeah.
to give it away to other people. You didn't
Amen.
get that gift selfishly. That was given to you. Of course, you put the work in, you surround yourself
Right.
with the right people, but now you're going to reach back into hell and pull others out of that pit.
Absolutely.
So good.
Because only, what is it? It's 1% of people stay recovered.
Wow.
So it is a gift.
6%. So basically, if 100 people actually walk into an AA meeting, 6 of them are making it.
Oh,
Or making
my
it
God.
in recovery. What about maintaining it though?
Yep.
Staying sober.
That is
6%.
devastating.
Yeah, it's wild. So
Because people don't understand getting sober is one thing, it's staying sober is the problem.
yeah,
And
that's what
I
it
think
is.
another thing that people don't talk about a lot, I'm obviously not an addict in the sense that you guys have been before, but what caused the addiction to begin with? Like the healing that needed to take place before someone got to a point where that's where they ended up.
Yep.
And I think it's so sad because like talking about vulnerability and opening up, I think the problem is that people are suffering alone because they're ashamed of suffering. They're
course.
ashamed of being weak, quote unquote
Yep.
weak,
Yep.
and having, traumas and things that they can't, that are haunting them that they can't get out of. And the only thing that takes their mind off of that is a drug.
100%.
Or alcohol or something. That's the only time they feel good, and that's why they end up there. But it's like if we could get people before that first pill, before that first drink that leads to that down that road, we could literally change the world. And it's like, how do we do that?
When I was at I wrote about this in my book Aiming High. I went to the White House 3 times when President Trump was president, and he's an old friend of mine. We used to do business together. Celebrity Apprentice, back when we were working with Dennis Rodman, we booked him multiple times. Brandy Roderick, so I was always on set. Always supported my drug and alcohol rehab gala for Turning Point. Would send a check every year in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
I'm a sweetheart of a guy. I know a different Donald. And when I was at the White House, I got to spend time with Kellyanne Conway and Governor Chris Christie, and my then fiance Priscilla and I were talking. She's a life coach, that if they started implementing in grammar school self-esteem classes and self-worth classes, and the jocks and the nerds and the computer geeks and the popular kids and the ones that don't feel as popular and the smarter ones and the ones that aren't as smart, which would have been me, are all in the same room,
Right.
talking about feelings. Every one of them have those same feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you're on top of the top as the star athlete, it's, oh my God, what happens when I don't perform?
Yes.
What happens when I don't have a great day?
Yeah.
So they could all identify in that moment, in that room, in that class during an entire semester. It would change the entire course of mental health for this younger generation.
I totally agree. And one thing to think about too is that if you get them when they're young still, they become better parents.
Yep.
And when you become a better parent, you raise healthier kids.
Good point.
Because it goes back to that, right? Like you think
100%.
about the children that have horrible trauma because their parents were, we'll say their parents were addicts and their parents, whatever the case may be, if you had caught their parents at that age, you could have stopped, you could have, put a block in there and stop the trauma so that they could have
100%.
contributed to children that would grow up to be healthy.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
It's tough. It's tough because there's so many different reasons people get into drugs. Some people start off recreationally. I just lacked the coping mechanisms to deal with things.
Right.
And I just, was found a way to drown out the noise. I mean, that's what it was for me. Every time I used it, just drowned out all the noise, and it kept me focused on the things that I wanted to. And it muffled everything else, which to me was like a release. I just felt free of every problem that I had at the time. I was a really lost kid. I didn't have any direction in my life, and I kept it all blocked out.
Wow.
The fear of having to come to reality with it all was like terrifying to me.
I don't want to ruin my book, but I've spoken about it enough. Mine was, my mother smothered me with love.
Oh, wow.
Which, sometimes that could be looked at as a good trauma. It's still a trauma.
Well, it doesn't matter.
And it was so much to the point that it caused anxiety anytime I was away from her, anytime I was by myself. I also didn't speak up to my mom and dad about being learning disabled and labeled this kid with the learning disability. He was put in small classrooms and getting bad grades. So the first time I was on my own was at sleepaway camp at 14 and had terrible stomach pains one night. And the counselor took me to see the nurse, who gave me this clear cough syrup cup with this green liquid, and it tasted disgusting. And within 30 to 45 seconds, man, my life changed forever.
That was
Wow.
That green
there.
liquid
Yeah.
not only introduced me to the world, it introduced the world to Darren Prince.
Yeah.
What was that green
And,
liquid?
Was it codeine
It
or
was
something?
Demerol.
Oh, Demerol.
And I
Wow.
went back every night to the nurse in 1984 to get more of this because I was the funny guy, the social guy. The guys were laughing with me, not at me. I had the courage to flirt with girls for the first
Yeah,
time in my
does that
life.
for you.
Wow.
So, again, I don't point fingers because the reason one of my favorite groups to speak to are grammar school and high school kids much more than corporations is because I don't want them to be me. I want them to speak up. If you feel different, if you have to be that person to put something into your system just to fit in, to be somebody that you're not, speak up.
Yeah.
For sure.
Amen.
100%. It's tough because, yeah, once you experience those things, you just don't want to give them up, right? Because like you said, it gives you the courage to do almost anything.
I got to tell a 14-year-old, and especially at that point, I started making money. Once I got back, I started a multi-million-dollar baseball card company.
Oh, yeah. I actually heard. Yeah,
I was in
saw
high
that.
school at 15, probably making $300,000-$400,000
It's amazing.
that year selling baseball cards. So I was just buying Percocets and Vicodins on the street
Well,
at that
yeah.
point. You know, I'd give money to my friends, be like, hey, go deal with this for me. I don't want to deal with it. And I'll give you 20 pills. And yeah, they'd be running all over town.
Yeah, I bet they would. Oh my gosh, that's
It's amazing.
crazy.
It's amazing you were able to start that kind of business. What baseball cards were you selling? Did you have like,
Michael Jordan?
I'm so
Back-
curious.
Back then, it was actually purely baseball, like basketball, hockey, football. Nobody cared about them. They were garbage. So, if my friends were interested in like the newer players back then, which were Roger Clemens, Darryl Strawberry,
Yeah.
Dwight Gooden, Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, I kind of realized that the older cards that they had were the ones that I wanted. Because they were getting them from their dads or their grandfathers or their uncles. And
passed
those
down,
are the
right?
ones that are worth a lot of money. Those are the ones that Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio
yeah.
and I already
I'm
knew.
sure.
So I became this little hustler. I would trade them the cards that they want, and I would take the ones that were more expensive.
Oh, that's smart.
Eventually started my own business with it.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah, my father has, I think he has in a safety deposit box. I want to say, I don't want to say it's Mickey Mantle's rookie card, but something
one
to
of the
that
early
effect.
years.
Yeah, it's like his cherished thing that he has.
Yeah.
It's sitting in a safety
That's
deposit
great.
box right now.
I remember my uncle had thousands and thousands of cards, and they were all of them in packages still, none of them opened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like he had it was a room like this, just shelves and shelves.
Amazing.
I wonder what he did with all those.
We
Like,
should find out.
I mean, there has to be some really
The
amazing
yeah.
ones in there.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Right?
Very valuable ones.
I remember one time I snuck in there and opened one.
And he got pissed.
Oh, he
No,
probably flipped.
I don't know if he ever knew, but because I knew there were
Did it have
there
the
was gum in
it?
there.
Yeah.
And I bit into the gum and it like disintegrated in my
Yeah.
mouth because it was so old.
Remember
And I'm
that
like,
hard
oh
gum?
God, it was
Yeah.
probably like a Mickey Mantle card or something. But
And it's funny you brought that up because that's the stuff I used to sell. I used to specialize in finding candy stores and vendors that, for some whatever reason, there was an unopened box or boxes from 1960.
Yes.
And they've been sitting around for 20 years. So what I
Yes.
did was I developed this whole network of Wall Street guys and corporate executives that were degenerate gamblers, but in a better way. They were sophisticated gamblers. They would love to buy a box that might have cost 5 cents a pack.
Right.
wow.
That I might have bought the box now for 10,000,
Right.
knowing that this collector knows that there could be cards worth tens of thousands.
Right.
They literally would like invite a bunch of friends over, pop open a couple expensive bottle of wine, and open up these cards like from 25, 30 years ago when they
Right.
were kids, looking to like hit the lottery.
And they'd buy the box for a price, right? Is that
Yeah.
what they do? And then
Yeah.
they hope that the
And now
cards
it's
are in
bigger
there.
than ever. I mean,
Oh,
forget
yeah.
about it.
I
Now
was
they
going to
have
ask.
like the 86 Fleer from like Jordan rookies. Like those are like 150, 200,000 a
Oh, I'm
box because
sure.
you're guaranteed, I think, to get like 3 Jordan rookies out of every box.
Really?
Wow.
And back then it was what, 25 cents a pack in
Well, what-
1986.
Oh, probably. What's the value on something like that? So what's the value on those 3 cards if you're guaranteed to get them in a box?
It depends on the centering and the condition. I still kind of pay attention to stuff. I mean, a Gem Mint 10 PSA, which is the holy grail of grading the cards. At one point during the pandemic, that card in a 10 was going for $750,000.
Really? Wow.
So now I think a Mint 9 is probably, 25 to 40,000.
Oh my
So
God.
amazing.
That would,
crazy.
that would
It's
change my
crazy.
life.
It's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And the money that goes into it. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
frenzy at some of these conventions.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sure.
well, yeah.
It's amazing that it's amazing that at that time, you said you were in high school at the time?
I was in high school.
That you thought about it to that degree that you were able
Yeah,
to build a
I got
business
out
like
of
that.
I got out of it in the mid '90s because that's when I started the agency. After I was booking autograph signings for a lot of the celebrities I developed relationships with, and I never sort of looked back, but I'm around it from time to time
Right.
because a lot of our athletes and celebrities will get booked to sign autographs at these conventions.
Right.
So it's kind of hard not to pay attention that that industry exploded.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have a ton of fun opening those boxes. If
Mhm.
I could afford to spend $350,000 on a box, I'd probably
Yeah.
do it. But so I'll tell you something cool.
Just
So
don't chew the gum.
just don't
No,
shoot the
don't.
gum.
It's disgusting.
But it's crazy the collections that you like. I wish I knew. Right? Like you always say, I wish I knew.
Everybody
then, but I know
says that.
now. But my great uncle, who through marriage, he had this. He was a fanatical toy collector.
Mhm.
So in his house in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, he had this climate controlled room downstairs. It had to be close to 1,000 square feet. And he literally had every G.I. Joe
Amazing.
in mint condition
In the box.
in the box.
Yeah.
Any toy figure you could think of back then. He'd have the Beanie Babies. Remember they were the Beanie Babies?
Oh, I remember.
I had a friend. It's funny you said that. I was just watching 40-Year-Old Virgin last week.
Oh, it's such a
And
great
that
movie.
scene
It's amazing.
At the box, you're making me sell my toys. No, I'm trying to make you better your
Yeah.
life. Do you know how hard this is not to take this out of the box? This is a Iron Man.
Yeah, his whole
God.
apartment filled
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember. But yeah, it's crazy. And he wound up, so he passed. My Aunt Barbara's still alive, and I think they wound up auctioning it off for millions.
Wow,
What?
Good for them.
Millions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, if you saw I can't even.
That's what I always tell people. Like, believe me, I would love to get one of those finds one day because I still collect certain things. But the best, safest thing to do, go to an auction house and let them just take their commission.
Oh,
Go to like a big auction house and let them take their commission because you just don't know otherwise.
True.
Like,
Yeah,
if you're
no,
going to
sure.
try to sell it, like you can't keep track of what it's selling for. You don't know if you're getting
No.
screwed. If you're, if you want to just make sure you make the safest bet possible, go to a legitimate auction house
Right.
and they'll take either a small percentage, or if you have that valuable amount of type of stuff, they'll actually charge the winning bidder and
Yeah.
won't even charge you. So
No.
you're not paying anything
Right.
to get the most eyeballs on it, to get the highest type of bidders behind
Right.
it, and you don't have to lose sleep. Are we getting screwed or not? Getting
right. I was going to
screwed?
say, if you're not, at least you're not getting jerked.
Yeah,
right?
and you can log online now and see what everything the
Yeah.
bids are at.
Yeah,
It wa-
true.
I remember what was really valuable was I remember the Hess trucks.
Yeah,
That you sell. I remember
Yeah.
like the first Hess truck ever was worth like $150,000.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Now they're
crazy.
worth nothing, but it's amazing at
Yeah.
one time that its peak value was
I know.
over $100,000.
I know.
So
Listen, I don't want to change the subject here.
No,
I,
no,
I, re-
no.
I really
But we
don't.
have
I
to.
love toys and cards,
There
but
you go.
I have to know, like with your dating history, what is your take on our current dating
That's a
culture?
good question.
I have to know.
It's terrible. I mean, I think I never grew up hearing the term body count. I never knew
Right.
what hookup culture was.
Right.
Instagram and social media is ruining most men and women's lives in their 20s. It's giving you a false
hmm
sense of what really doesn't exist in the first
Mhm.
place.
hmm
And, it's just, it's horrible. I mean, she knows how to act. I was in her mid-20s and I dealt with it too. And admittingly, she knew. I mean, even girls that I'm friends with that are that age, they know that they're in this completely screwed up culture.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it's so easy, even for somebody like me, like I told you, I mean, I get DMs of
Mhm.
random girls wanting representation, beautifully. Come on, I know. First off, I can't do anything with them,
Right.
Right.
but they're so free and open.
Yeah.
To just be like, hey, we should meet up for a drink, or
Yeah.
you have any time to speak, or can we FaceTime? I wanted to tell you what I'm working on. Like, I shut everybody down. I mean,
Wow.
we're not looking for new
Yeah.
clients, first off.
Right.
And what am I going to take on a freaking Instagram girl for?
Exactly.
Like, most of them marketed themselves anyway. Like,
Yeah.
they're not representable by a big agency. They've done it by themselves. God bless them and good for them. But I just think the entire culture is messed up because a boyfriend and girlfriend get into a fight and both of them could be on TikTok and Instagram that night trying to find a replacement, and
Yeah.
you don't learn the values of going through the ups and downs and the struggles of the relationship, because especially for women, it's so much easier to get a DM and just look at it. And, you know, in that moment, it might sound okay, but now you're potentially jeopardizing something that's real because you had a bump in the road, and vice versa, guys with our mentality, because we're so compulsive.
For sure.
You know, we just think sometimes with the wrong head.
Yeah.
We want to do something just to kind of feel like we conquered again, and
it's
screw her
thing.
and screw
for sure.
this, and
absolutely
both sides.
Yeah, true. I cannot fathom like the narrative right now, and I see this on TikTok all the time with other like influencers that are women. They're like, date more than one person at a time. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like you need to be dating multiple people because you can't trust anyone. And I get it. I get the concept of what they're saying, but I
cringe
don't,
over that.
Yeah. I don't know how to be that person.
It goes nowhere.
Because I'm such a connection person that I can't connect with multiple people at one time. And so in a way, it's like, that's who I am, but it's also a disadvantage because of the dating culture that we have. If I'm dating someone, I know that they're the only person I'm talking to, but I also know there's a good chance I'm not. Right? Especially with men, because it seems like it's easier for men to dip their toes in more than one place at a time. I can't do that because if it's like, if I'm taking the time out to invest in you, I don't want to spread myself thin.
No,
like I'm not for everybody.
You're like me. When you're in, you're all in.
When I'm in, I'm in, whether it goes somewhere or not. Like it may be 6 weeks and we realize we're not the right fit. That's fine. But if you're in front of me, you're in front of me, and this is what I'm choosing to invest in right now. And it's such a bummer. Because I very rarely meet people like that.
And those are also women that are sharing those opinions that have clearly been burnt.
Well, they have, but it's like...
they haven't got through their trauma. And what sucks is, like, women know this, and it's like, men, we peak later in life. Women have a very, very short window to you know, find that man and get wiped up. And little by little, guess what? You know, you're looking great in your 25s, late 20s, early 30s, mid to late 30s. But eventually they wake up one morning. And now guess what? It's the guys that are 40, 45 that have grinded it out to become successful, established, whole, complete, healed. And now we're the big catch. And now we're the ones that have the choice to say, no, I'm going to either find somebody younger. And, you know, so it completely shifts.
It does shift.
And so I think both sides need to be mindful, like, of working on self, working on trauma, working on healing, not being somebody that's dating 4 or 5 different people. That's completely useless and pointless. It's going to get you nowhere. It's also going to develop behavioral patterns that are just going to make you be old and alone one day.
And
you're not going
impossible
to understand
break.
human connection. I mean, you know, I get it. Like, it could be fun if you have like 2 or 3 people, but it's just not, that's just not meant for longevity.
That's not. Well, how do you?
I too, and she knows enough about my past and the way I've, been a serial dater and whatnot. But I don't want to be that person. I know I'm a better Darren.
It wasn't
when
fulfilling.
I have one good person in my life. and it's just about me and them.
It can't be fulfilling. Like it can't be to be. And first of all, just if you have any moral bone in your body, like you can't feel good about doing that, knowing that you're talking to 3 or 4 people and each one of those people has no idea about the other.
The problem is they don't get emotionally connected enough with those people to feel bad about it. That's the problem.
I'll tell you the other crazy part. They almost know about it now, this culture.
True. That's true. That's true.
Because they're both doing it to each other.
They're both doing it to each other. It's like, oh, okay, great. I'm seeing so-and-so tomorrow night and the other one that later.
And here's the thing that's sick about that and sad about that. It's like a competition. It's like women feel like they have to offer you competition. Like they have to be like, look, I'm dating you, but I'm also dating Fred. And I'm going to see Jerry on Saturday. I'm saying all these old names. Like who's named Fred and Jerry?
They're doing it so the man steps it up.
But so that the one they actually like will feel like they have to put in more effort. And I'm going, no, you don't get it.
Worst thing
you don't get it.
That
first of all, it makes you lose all sense of class.
Exactly.
Okay, because now you're accessible to everybody in town.
Exactly.
But then secondly, it's like the right person for you. One, they're not going to come in and compete with 5 other people.
No.
right?
No.
I
No, of
wouldn't.
course
I'm
not.
not competing with other women.
I know my worth, and there ain't no way.
Exactly. If you want a healthy relationship, then it has to be a healthy person, and a healthy person's not going to come in and be like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll compete with all these people for your attention." No, thank you.
Well, they say like anything that's accessible to anyone loses value.
Exactly. Like
it does.
if I'm not your first choice, that's 100% fine, but I'm not going to be a choice at all.
Exactly.
Like it's either us.
You have enough self-respect for yourself.
Well, and I mean, it's just disgusting to me.
Yeah.
It's so degrading to think that someone looks at me as just their entertainment for Wednesday night.
And it's on both sides now, like I said, which makes it even worse because good guys and good women that are younger, their whole trajectory and thought process on dating and soulmates and marriage, it's so tainted because
it's tainted,
male and females of that demographic, 20, 25, late 20s, that are all living the same way.
Yeah, and they wonder why they're so lonely.
But then you have that demographic that does it, but the problem is that the people that aren't like that suffer for it.
Yeah, they do. They're the ones.
Now they all become guarded.
There could be some really good men and women in that group that were raised properly, or even if there were some issues with the family, they got their life together and they want the real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they can't find it because they're dealing with 99% of the other people's mindset. And that's not fair either.
No, it isn't.
It creates trust issues. Not to mention, the thing that bothers me the most about it is that there's nothing sacred anymore.
No.
You know, and don't get me wrong, I don't judge anybody, men, women, for what they do. But at the same time, you can't go online, post half-naked pictures of yourself, or even guys posting workout videos with their shirts off, and then get mad when your partner gets upset with you.
Right.
Like, it should be sacred between a couple. And if you're not going to make it sacred, then you can't complain when someone has a problem with it.
Right.
And you know what you're signing up for, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, if you're dating somebody, vice versa, and you see their behavior beforehand, you address it one time.
Yep.
Now it's your choice. If they are willing to understand it and change, that's one thing. If they're not, and they're like, oh, it's no big deal, or make it a big deal, but you stayed in it. So you now know what you signed up for.
Absolutely.
And if you're somebody of value, of high stature, if you've got a great corporate position, you got to look at that stuff and take it in consideration.
Right.
Be like, look, a woman executive, do I really want to deal with my man in his early 30s constantly posting shots out with the boys drinking?
Yeah, for sure.
Getting sloshed and vice versa. If a man's, at a law firm or a big executive, is it really worth my girl looking like, hate to say it, an insta-ho on the weekends with all their girlfriends with 2 pieces of clothing on? Right. So now that's on you.
Right.
Because
it's fun to look at.
You're seeing the red flags to know where you're at, and believe me, I've chose wrong too at times.
Yeah,
we all have.
I've seen signals and signs before I got sober, since I've been sober, and I didn't want to catch it. I always wanted to be that guy that maybe finds a way to help them through whatever they're going through to change them. And you can't change anybody.
No, you sure can't.
They have to want to. And on top of it, you like to give people the benefit of it. You talked about this before. People like us like to give people the benefit. You just do. And you hope for the best. And you hope that you rub off on them, or you hope that for you, they're going to be different.
Right.
The reality of it is they're not going to be.
Yeah. Until they're ready.
Until they're ready.
And age is, huge. Maturity is huge. Like it just like if I'm going with a 28-year-old guy out on dates, like who am I kidding?
Exactly.
Like I know. Like this is not a long-term lasting thing. And no matter how connected we are and how much we have in common, it's like you can only have so much in common when a person is 28. They don't know who they are yet. They're still figuring out their life.
They barely have any worldly experience.
Yes, they barely do. And the little that they have, it's like it's still just experimental. Like they're not set in a solid foundation of who they are as a person yet. And that is so important,
It's all like elementary at that age. You're still learning at that age. You don't know what you want half the time.
Yeah.
Of course.
Especially today's generation. I mean, when our parents were younger, or even when we were younger, it was different.
It was.
It wasn't the same way that it is today. So the values have changed. The morals have changed.
It's also easy for us to be judgmental.
But
we never grew up with social
media.
I think I told you that before. I mean, I was representing Pamela Anderson at 25 years old. She was the baddest woman on the planet.
Yeah, she was.
I can't even imagine the depth of my insecurities with selfies and all the pictures and everything I would have done to freaking attract women because I was just such a broken soul back then.
Right.
So, I mean, I might have been that guy sitting here right now, but what's wrong with dating 10 women at once? Because my whole mindset would have been different.
You're right.
I mean, so they can't help the environment they grew up in. And as a parent, You could try to take a phone away all day long for $20. They could buy a prepaid phone. You don't even know about it.
For sure.
I mean, I did.
You know what it is? I don't get it. I look at the generations today, and I talk. The weird thing about it is it's our generation's children.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I almost don't. Sometimes I don't understand it, or I have like kind of a. I can't reconcile it because we grew up with such different values. Yep. And if you're really instilling those values and those morals into your kids, regardless of social media, I get that it's out there and you see it all. Why are they so dramatically different than the parents?
I think I know why.
It's wild to me.
I think what happened was, so our parents' generation, they were raised completely different than we were too, right? They were raised in the generation where it was like hard work, morals, ethics, church every Sunday. You grow up as a man or a woman. You do the things you're meant to do in your role, and you're responsible. Like they learned responsibility. Like our parents' generation, they were like disciplined, right? So then they disciplined us a little less, and then our generation, we're like, discipline is so taboo now because it's like, we're like, oh, my parents were so strict. My parents were so controlling. My parents, like that was so hard on me. I don't ever want my kid to feel the way I felt. And then they have no discipline and they're coddled.
Right.
So you have a generation of coddled kids with no discipline or any ounce of self-respect or responsibility. And so they just think everything's a free-for-all.
And
everything goes.
I even have like some of my clients, Hulk Hogan's very old school, Chevy Chase is very old school. Sometimes I'll show them stuff where they'll say it and they like shake their heads. Like,
for sure.
They have, I can't even. They're still proud men, both great fathers, family guys, and they look at this like it's foreign language to them.
Yeah, they don't recognize the world that they live in. It's I could imagine. It's I can't imagine having a daughter.
It's disturbing.
A daughter. Oh
having a daughter. Oh my God, I'd be on a rampage. I just could never do it.
Can you imagine being a father, seeing your let's say 18-year-old daughter on OnlyFans? Knowing that your 18-year-old daughter has OnlyFans, or like every picture they have is a string bikini where nothing is covered. I can't even imagine that.
Well, it's even scarier than that because some of them are, if they're actually in a relationship, they're doing even worse stuff. Thinking that relationship is there forever and they're going to make millions. And guess what? Good luck with any relationship after that one because that content's online forever.
Absolutely. And there's no longevity in it. Nope. They don't see it. So it's like
I call it's a short-term gain for a lifetime of pain.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
You could not have said that better. It's absolutely just that because...
And there's a lot of things in life that are that way.
Oh, yeah, for
people
sure.
look for that short-term,
Right, but at least at least some of those things, you're not tainting yourself forever.
Right. Exactly.
Like I have a friend who's actually now she was on OnlyFans and she's a great girl, okay, and she was a bikini model, so she delved into OnlyFans a little bit, and it really wasn't for her. For her, what happened was the industry became very toxic to her. Yeah. So she actually got out of it. She shut down her page. She tried to wipe out whatever she could. And she realized that she wanted to be a full-time like nanny. Like she loved kids. That's what she wanted to do. And I'm telling you, she struggled with it. People would look her up online. And they would find the pictures, and it followed her everywhere. It tormented her.
What kind of woman wants their nanny to be an ex, OnlyFans girl?
Absolutely.
Like, no, thank you.
So
I don't judge what somebody has to do. Like, I understand this horrific.
No, it's not a judgment, but
what I judge is their thought process, not understanding when they're done.
Yeah.
The way they're looked at in society.
Oh, for sure.
That's the part that is such an extreme lack of common sense. Like, what in you actually thought that you can do this, make $10 million, buy real estate, and actually think that you could eventually become some serial entrepreneur?
Oh.
How are you going to a bank and leveraging loans and explaining where you made your money?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't sit here and start going on podcasts like, this is so unfair.
Right.
I made all this money legitimate. Like, well, legitimate. Yeah, it might be that.
Right.
But morally, you're somebody that's not going to be an attractive client to a big investment banking firm.
Well, they just wouldn't take you seriously.
So understand if those are your choices, that's fine.
Right.
But there are going to be consequences. Like I said, I don't judge why people have to do things, survival, whatever.
Right.
God bless them. As long as they're healthy and they're happy, it's the most important thing. But when you make that transition, you got to understand
Oh.
you are going to be a little bit of a black sheep.
Yeah.
There's going to be
Sure.
some things that are very different
Mhm.
for you versus
Yeah.
other people. You're not going to banking conferences,
Right.
you know, with all this
Right.
money and sitting down with a huge group of real estate,
Right.
you know, contractors that have been in the game for 40 years and handing them millions. There's too many questions.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
like they want to know
They
where
want
this.
something clean because they don't want any noise surrounded every deal that they're involved in.
Yep.
And the crazier things. And again, I'm very big. I in the same way I don't judge people for what they do, but even in dating, right? Like you could get the women that do all of that stuff, and they're obviously not traditional women, and that's fine. And I have no problem with them wanting to try to date traditional men, but you can't be bitter when a traditionally valued guy is not going to date you. So that's kind of where I take issue with it, is when they can't see that line.
Yeah.
Like
they
you
get
have to
offended.
understand you did what you did, and that's fine. No one's judging you for it.
Yeah.
But you can't be mad when traditional
But
men are
that's
not
also
going to
part
go.
of what I'm saying. That's where I get a little judgy.
Yeah,
Like
me
that you
too.
can't do that
Right.
and then be like, why isn't this guy or that guy, my last two relationships, wifing me up?
Right. Exactly.
Well, because you didn't think, and now it doesn't mean you're not a fun girl to hang out
Right.
with. You're not a fun girl to travel
Could have a
with.
great heart
Not a
even.
great, could have a great time with. But in an established man, and forget this high value man BS, because
Oh,
I don't even know
God.
what that means.
Yeah,
But an
Yeah.
it's a
established
social
man
construct.
has to think down the road.
Yeah.
At a certain point in my life, could this bite me in the ass?
Yeah.
Could this come up? Could this hurt my reputation and my credibility?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
And if a woman not going into it doesn't realize that, well, they're going to wind up with a certain type of man, and it's probably not going to be the one that they want
Right.
Yeah.
because of
so
the choices
true.
that they make.
It's sad and it's unfortunate, but it is just the way that life works.
Yeah.
It's the world we live in. But well, that aside, I mean, so Darren, you're a best-selling author, right? So what inspired you to write the book, though? And also, what do you hope people take from that book?
So my dad always wanted me to write a book when he was alive. I never wanted to write on about all the celebrity stories because, you know, I take that stuff to the grave. And after he passed, I met on Instagram, just by chance, this woman, Anna David, who happened to be in recovery, best-selling author, TEDx speaker. And we made plans to have lunch one day. This is maybe 7-8 months after he passed. We sat down just like this and talking, and she was so moved by my recovery story that she's like, "Oh, you're so passionate, like listening to you and your breakthroughs and helping other people. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I was laughing, go, "My dad just passed and he was wanting me to write one, but I just don't feel comfortable writing about, you know, all the celebrity stuff. That's just not, you know, who I am." And she goes, "You don't need to." She goes, "You need to take people on this fly on the wall journey of what it was like to go deep through hell and come out of the other side and sprinkle hope and recovery across the world."
Yeah.
Why throwing in some stories along the way. And that was it. It hit. And within a few months, we sat down. She partnered me up with Krista McGinnis, my brilliant writer. You know, we released it in October 1st of 2000. I think it was 18. And it became an international bestseller in 4 countries. Probably it's in
In
5th.
4 countries?
Yeah, Australia, Canada, England, and LA.
It's amazing.
Wow.
And USA.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
so it's already like in the 5th print. It's become just a fixture more in the recovery world
I
than
was gonna say.
anything in the mental health space. And I talked about trials and tribulations in business, trying to give some guidance on that. But for me, it was I'd rather a lot of fun stories with the clients. But for me, it was just exactly what the book was subtitled was a prominent agent hits bottom at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am on top of the world, but as broken as I've ever been. And at some point, I just don't have it in me yet. There'll probably be an aiming higher because my first book was aiming high
good.
because there's been quite a few publishers asking for it because there's been so much that's happened since that book came out in 18.
That's amazing.
But when I'm ready, we'll figure it out.
How's the process of writing a book? Was it difficult?
It was
dive
difficult
deep
at
like
first
that?
and just get the brain focused on it. And, there's emotional roller coasters, highs and lows. And I just kept reminding myself from even the audiobooks, I had to do 12 hours in the studio to do
Really?
the audiobooks, 3 different sessions. I just kept telling myself one life, one life. You're going to get to one life with this. One person's life is going to get changed. The family's going to get changed. And that was my mindset. It was just, that was it. That's why you got to keep going, keep pushing, keep
That's
doing
so
it.
good. Yeah, that's so good. Because, at the end of the day, it isn't, it's your book, it's your story, but it's actually about the person reading it. Yeah.
Well, it is. You hope that you reach somebody, right? I mean, you do what you do because you hope that inevitably you help the people that are reading it or listening to you, because that's what it's all about, right? You pass it down. You try to pass down what you went through and how you got through it.
The other part that came with the book is once, I did Good Day New York and Chris Cuomo, that's when I really started getting signs from God that, the age in life is really just a byproduct. Like, he put me into that role because he knew that through decades of experience in relationship building, that I was finally going to use that platform to talk about my story, talk about aiming high, go on the biggest podcasts, biggest talk shows, biggest stages. And I just dove, head first into that. I was like, awesome. This is my legacy. It was never actually about Darren, the sports and celebrity agent. He basically kept me in it as long as I was in it to cultivate, network, get some of the most amazing relationships. And then when it was my time, go back and use those relationships to tell my story to help others.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's so good. So good. And you know what? That is the upside of social media. If there was one, it is being able to tell stories like this for people that would have never heard it otherwise.
Yeah, you used to have to knock down a lot of doors to get deals and stuff like that, or get yourself out there. Now, I mean, that is, like you said, it is the one great thing that came out of it is you can build your own platform. And if you know how to market yourself the right way, you can get pretty successful doing it. So there is one good thing to take out of social media. I guess that's it. Until they ban TikTok.
Exactly.
But so it's right. I mean, now, when would you be doing the aiming higher? Do you have ideas on when you would like to start?
Definitely not this year. Maybe it might be next year. There's enough happening and enough that's happened since that I think I could probably pull it off next year.
I can't wait to read. I gotta say, I can't wait to read Aiming High.
Oh, you won't be able to put it down, and it's not even because of anything for me. I'm very humble. Kristen wrote a masterpiece. I mean, we spoke. We did so many lunches, dinners, whatever, into the tape recorder, back and forth. But she really pulled it all together.
That's so awesome.
Such an easy read too. So many people were just like, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, those are the best books.
Yeah, my friend was raving about it, so now I have to get it. I meant to order it actually recently, and then but I'll be ordering it this week for sure.
Good.
I'll let you know what I think.
He'll let me know.
I'll let Ashley know.
I have a question for you. Will you ever retire? And if so, where do you retire? Where does Darren Prince want to retire?
I don't think I'll ever officially formally retire. I just think I love what I do so much. I mean, it's a man's dream job.
Yeah.
Every guy knows that. It's like, how do I get into we have once in a lifetime experiences every day. I mean, Monday I'm at Jerry Westhouse with Dominique Wilkins and Jerry's estate in Bel Air, and the stories I heard about basketball, and they haven't seen each other in years, and the hugging and just the emotions. And I'm just like, every once in a while, something like that'll happen. I'm like, God, man, am I blessed? Just, it's, just to be so privileged and honored to be in Jerry's house. Who I've been there a million times, but because Dominique was in town, because he's an executive with the Hawks, and they were playing the Lakers and the Clippers back-to-back nights. I mean, just little moments like that, and, the people I get to deal with on a daily basis. So I just don't think I would ever, I would lose so much of my professional identity that I don't know, what I would do.
Right.
But I do think when I get to a place financially where it's enough, there'd be a lot bigger focus on not just my foundation, but my dad always loved Extreme Home Makeover and wanted to do his own show called America's Got a Heart.
Oh, very
and
cool.
Just looking for all different situations, like my boy Zach, MD Motivator, like all his incredible viral videos that he does all the time. Like, we've sent that back and forth. Like that'll be me. That'll be me to know I have a slush fund of X millions a year that, I want to look at every letter, every email, see who we can help, because I could do that till the day I die.
I'm telling you.
Be incredible.
There's no better
greatest
feeling
thing in the world.
There's no better feeling in the world than helping someone.
Yep.
It is literally the one thing that can fill your cup instantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Well,
just,
told you. I mean, I developed self-esteem finally the first time in my life by doing esteemable acts.
yeah.
It wasn't, respectfully Magic or Hulk or Rick or Larry Bird or David Goggins or Charlie Sheen or Chevy Chase. It was, being a service to other people.
That's right.
Others can look at the other part of it, but that's all exterior BS. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean anything. It's what you do to be kind and help other people while you're down here on earth.
Yeah. I mean, that's your gig, but it's not your purpose.
Yep.
Right? Your purpose is,
Yep.
how do I take what I do and make life better for the other
Exactly.
people? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, it's great. It's great. Like I said, I don't think typically people with your type of your size platform don't typically talk about it as much as I
True.
think they could probably talk about it.
Yeah.
So when I see someone like you discuss it so openly and honest, it is extremely inspiring. So yeah, I mean, again,
Especially for men.
yeah, it
Because
really
men
is.
are even more,
We're so close.
Their egos and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I mean, I told you, it seems like I'm one of those few that can have a handful of relationships with women where it is a platonic situation. And I think a lot of that is that emotional connection
Mm-hmm.
because it's that vulnerability and that transparency that women very rarely see, period. Even with the
Exactly.
man that they are with
Yeah,
intimately in a
exactly.
relationship. And I don't care who it is. It could be a teenager, it could be you, it could be him. Like, I know no other way. I've become so comfortable talking about the uncomfortable that I would actually be uncomfortable if I didn't know I can keep doing it.
Yeah.
There's no other way that I know how to live. And it's just a freedom sort of wearing life like a loose garment. And this is me.
Yeah.
I'm far from perfect, but I'm way better than I've ever been before. And I'm doing everything I can one day at a time to evolve into a better Darren Prince.
yeah.
Amen.
I know sometimes things are tough, so if you guys like a copy of the book, be sure to message Darren at agent_DP on IG. They will definitely send you a copy of the book free of charge. Also, check out Darren's company at princemarketinggroup.com if you want anything involving endorsements and keynote speakers. Be sure to check us out or continue to check us out on IG at notfornothing.podcast. Check us out on YouTube to watch the full episode at Not For Nothing Podcast, one word. You can also check us out on TikTok at Not For Nothing Podcast. So again, Darren, thank you for coming, man. We appreciate you. It's been
Thank you.
great. And that's it. It's a wrap.